Matt Brown, Extra Points, joins us on 365 Sports as we head to the weekend with Catalina Craig Smoak and David Smoak. Matt, you have been behind the scenes. You've played the game. You've now seen and what they are now releasing on an every seemed like second basis. Did they do it right based on what you now have seen?
I know based on what I've seen and based on what I got to experience holding the sticks, I think I would feel confident saying they did it right to the standards of people like you and I, right? If you are not a professional Madden, highly competitive video game kind of person, and you just want to sit down and you want the Baylor to look like Baylor and Texas Tech to look like Texas Tech, and you want to build up your dynasty and have some fun with your friends, I think it's going to be excellent. It was very clear to me from my experience there, and I think this even came through even more with the release today. This was a video game that took more than 3 years to make. This is not a 6-month rush job like so many other annual releases are. This was an effort to really kind of make this foundational and rebuild a lot of the systems from the ground up. Whether it's meets the highly specific competitive specifications for some people in that video game community, I'm going to need more than 3 hours, I think, to kind of play through everything. But I have liked almost everything that I've seen so far.
Matt, there are so many features like the wear and tear feature and, the way that running the ball, I think you wrote it as it's actually like fun now as opposed to something you kind of had to do. It's more of a challenge. Like what sticks out to you among those features of things that are going to make the game challenging, but also like more fun down the line? Because there was a way back in the old days where this game could be very easy and you could score 100 points a day.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the mechanics are really built to prevent people from abusing the same 3 or 4 plays, right? I think it was pretty simple in the last game where the read option could be overpowered, having a fast quarterback that could sprint out of the pocket and then either kind of cheese his way down the field or take advantage of one mismatch. Everybody wanted to play like Antoine Randall. And this year, between wear and tear, between a significantly improved AI, and I think with the playbook depth, it's going to be much harder to do that. One of the things that I didn't even finish a full 4-quarter game, and I noticed this a little bit, is that every hit from every single player matters over the course of the game. And if you decide, hey, listen, the way I love playing college football is an option offense, and I want to call 15 designated quarterback runs, and my quarterback happens to be 165 pounds dripping wet. If that's your guy, and you call plays like Urban Meyer, you will kill that person by the third quarter. He will be completely unable to move. You either have to alter your play calling a little bit. You have to learn how to maybe go slow sometimes rather than just trying to run 95 plays a game and spread some of that punishment out. It also means that I think you have a little bit more creativity on defense. So I'm excited, not just for me, but I think for lots of other people in this community to maybe dig into playbooks or kinds of ways to win a football game that maybe you haven't been incentivized to use before because you found one way and were comfortable with it.
Matt, you're kind of speaking on it here to some of the details of the game, but you're a guy who obviously with your newsletter and everything, you get deep into the details of college sports, college football. What was maybe something non-gameplay wise that you found to be your favorite thing or the most interesting thing from this version?
I think one of the really interesting things, I'm going to be excited to hear more of what the community's feedback is how recruiting works in this particular world. One of the, for everybody, that the transfer portal is going to be a pretty important part of how you fill out a roster. You're going to have to recruit your own players over the course of the season. The game's going to let you know, hey, this person, feels like he's not getting enough playing time. This person doesn't feel like he's being prepared for the NFL. You have time to change things. One of the mechanics that I think is really fascinating is this idea that if you're recruiting a high schooler and you finish number 2 or number 3 in his recruitment and he goes somewhere else and then hits the transfer portal the next year, you have a built-in advantage. He's going to remember you. He's going to remember all the things that he liked. And because the recruiting in the transfer portal is so quick, just like it is in real life, you don't have the luxury to spend 3 weeks scouting somebody or building a relationship. It becomes more transactional and more quick. So I almost wonder now what to kind of emulate real life. If you're at a program like a Kennesaw State or a Texas State, you're not going to be able to sign 4-star guys out of high school. You're not going to be able to do that even after you've won the Sun Belt. It's going to take a long time to be able to pull those kind of guys out of high school. But maybe you spend some resources recruiting somebody that you know you're not going to get, knowing you have a good chance of getting him when he didn't crack the starting lineup at Texas A&M. That's I think it's a fun dynamic that will change how people allocate resources and is more realistic than I think many fans realize when it comes to recruiting.
What is, and this is, I mean, you get questions all the time. I look at your timeline. By the way, we subscribe to Extra Points, and it's a great buy. It's a great bang for your buck, and the amount of stuff that you put out every day. Matt, what are the one or two biggest questions, and if not one or two, perhaps the one complaint that people have right now that they are disappointed in?
Brethren, fellas, I'm getting complaints about every little thing under the sun because I'm realizing that there's just so many people that play video games in a way that is foreign to me. Like, I've had multiple people reach out to me, and they're like, man, I'm a little bit nervous because I don't think the sun is in the right cosmological position for a 4:00 kickoff on the West Coast. It's over here. It should be over there. Matt, can you tell somebody at EA to fix these shadows? And I'm just like, it's like you're speaking French to me. This is I have no shared reference with you guys. I would have never thought about any of these things. In terms of questions, a lot of people have asked about customization. You know, one of the differences in this version versus the last couple of games is you're not going to have the same roster customization flexibility because EA doesn't want to run afoul with player licenses in the post-NIL era, right? You are not going to be able to go create a Mark Manning character that you stick on Texas that just happens to be a tall guy playing quarterback. You're not going to be able to go in and bolster everybody's ratings or maybe, as far as I understand, not even put yourself in dynasty mode. And so there are people that are concerned about that. There are people that feel very passionately about changing equipment. Like, if this guy doesn't have a visor, if this guy doesn't have a hoodie, the game's unplayable. Like, if that's you, God bless. That's not my world. But I think there's still some unanswered questions about what is Team Builder going to look like? How can I put Abilene Christian in this game, or my high school, or something else? And what am I going to be allowed to change, and what am I not? And how is EA going to communicate that specifically? Because I can communicate that to people, and some of them will listen, and some of them will tell me to stick it where the sun don't shine. But ultimately, I think that's a job for Electronic Arts, and I'll be interested to hear how they choose to do that this summer.
Matt, you got to play the game for 3 hours, and you played just on individual game play now mode, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
So how many games did you get in? Who did you play with, and what? How good do you feel you got quickly?
Oh, I was terrible. and part of that, I caution people, right? Like, I'm not a lead of this game anyway. I've been joking that I need to play on varsity difficulty. I need to play on washed dad mode, because once I get my review copy and I have to play the heck out of it for a week and a half, 2 weeks before I file all that copy, this is a thing I'm going to do for 4 hours a week, not for 40, because I'm not an undergraduate anymore. I remember the very first game that I played Akron at Ohio State. And I'm like, all right, let's go blow these guys out and get a feel for the control. I threw 2 picks in the first quarter because the passing system is a little bit different. I got better. I played a Toledo at Tulane game. I made Oregon go play at Sam Houston because I wanted to see what their stadium looked like and why the announcers were asking, why is Oregon doing this? I played games at BYU. I played them at Utah. I played at Washington. I even did a national championship game broadcast, which you can select from Play Now, and I put in Rutgers and Kennesaw State just because I kind of wanted to see what would happen if that was flagged as particularly unusual. Weirdly, the team that I had the best success with, and I don't know if that's from playbook or timing or matchups or whatever, was Tulane. I think I dropped 35 points on Toledo before halftime. Maybe that's a team that I end up kind of going back to a little bit later on. It is, if you are really good at NCAA 14, you will find that you need to relearn some functions if you want to be as good from the jump in this game.
How in the hell do you remember all that?
You know what I did? Is because I knew when I got home that I was going to be doing 400 sports radio hits. And so I had a notebook. And part of why I didn't get in as many full games as everybody else did is I wrote everything down.
Wow.
Much to the chagrin of a couple of these PR staffers were like, stop writing down every team's individual ratings. Just go play the game. And I'm like, I'm a reporter. What do you expect me to do?
Yeah.
If I can't record it, I'm going to go take notes. And that's what I tried to do.
I got a couple of questions from our chat room, Matt, if you don't mind.
Sure.
From Dundee,
Of course.
Dundee's. How good is the atmosphere of rivalry games?
You know, I think I only played one of them. That's right. I played a West Virginia and Syracuse game, which I don't think anyone's going to say is the most hot-blooded rivalry, but it does mean there's a rivalry. But we did see some video of other games. And what I feel really confident of other rivalry games, I feel very confident in saying that you will be able to tell if you are playing in a big game atmosphere. If you were playing Tennessee, I think was an example used, and you're hosting Bowling Green the second week of September, your crowd's going to do one thing. When you're hosting Alabama in October, that's when you see the orange and white stripe out. That's when the crowd noise is a little bit louder. That's when you see different game presentation features. And I think what you'll see in gameplay, especially at these bigger, the Texases, the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Penn States, what you'll see is if you're playing as a team that is younger, that does not have the same level of composure, they're going to mess up. The game wants you to be afraid to go to Death Valley. They want that to be an intimidating experience, and they also want you as a coach to have to scheme your team differently. Because if you're starting a true freshman and you're playing at Texas A&M and people are going crazy, you need to scheme some easy completions, some high percentage looks to give your team some level of confidence. If you go in there and you just decide to run 4 verts and you get smoked by a defensive end on the first play of the game, a lot of freshmen are going to go to pieces. I mean, you're going to suddenly see that you can't do anything. And I think that's a difficult dynamic to pull off, but should be fun to play with.
Justin R., how many teams can we add to a conference in Dynasty? Does he know if the 12-team playoff will be in the game?
The 12-team playoff is absolutely in the game. I don't know if it is customizable or not. I don't think it is because it wasn't in my notes, and I feel like that would have come up before. But the 12-team playoff is there, and with as many of the hard-coded rules that we know about how that works, right? So like Notre Dame, if you don't put them in a conference, Notre Dame's finishing 5th. If they go undefeated because they can't get one of those like automatic slots or anything, right?
Yeah.
I think how much you can expand a conference depends a little bit on the league. I think it's 20. I'd have to double check. You can also import created teams, but to do that you need to replace an existing team. So if you want to add your favorite Texas SVS squad or a high school or a fictional university and you want to yeet UMass out of existence, go for it. But the game is like hard coded to be at 134 teams.
Barry Crawford asking me to ask you expand on the thoughtful ads that may or may not be in NCAA 25.
Sure, I can do that. You know, there's one thing I've talked about with a couple of developers that they wanted to do this year but couldn't, and I think you would appreciate this, is incorporate message boards. Like, it would be pretty fun if you're not recruiting very well and like Digital Tiger Droppings or like Hogville is streaming at you, right? And we joke about this. Sports Illustrated used to be in the game. I saw prototypes of this. It didn't make it in, but like that is a part of college football culture that I think the developers would like to find a way to respectfully add without, maybe ruining a 247 or an on-3 license. So I think that's one thing to look for. Another small thing that I actually think has a pretty good chance of being in part of a future game are adding other non-current team stadiums, right? So like this year, nobody's playing a game at Lambeau Field, so Lambeau Field's not in the game. EA Sports already has a rendering and a license for Lambeau Field. Lambeau Field has hosted college games before. It's not super difficult to put all the NFL stadiums into the game. So if you want to, in your dynasty, schedule a game against Wisconsin to play at Lambeau, you could do that. That's not something you can do now. If there's a game already scheduled at an NFL stadium, it will appear in that NFL stadium. But I could see future years having Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, the rest of the NFL fields. It gave a little extra touch of realism.
Last question from the chat. Dustin Archambault,
Sure.
and again, Matt, we appreciate you. Ask Matt if there's a story mode and Heisman mode.
There is a mode called Road to Glory where you create a college recruit, a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, middle linebacker, or defensive back, and you simulate that person's career. And that I think that it would be fair to call that story-oriented. It's kind of a fun little dynamic, right? Because it asks the user to figure out how to best allocate an athlete's time. And you can either spend some of that time, in training to improve your overall rating. You could spend it on health to kind of recover from all those nicks and bruises. You could spend it on NIL, and you could take that time to go sign autographs or do brand deals. And those brand deals might give you performance bonuses during games. But it's set up so you can't max everything out. And you're going to have story mode scenarios that are going to ask you to kind of make tough calls about how you want to spend that time and decide what kind of career that you want to have. I imagine that is going to be replayed quite a bit by a lot of people as they decide, do I want to hit the transfer portal every year and collect as many NIL bags as I can? Do I want to try to walk on at Alabama? Do I want to be the greatest quarterback in Baylor history? It's up to you. And that's going to be a big component of that game.
Matt, great stuff, man. We appreciate it. I know you've been hammered with requests. We appreciate it when you do come on with us. Great job, man.
Hey,
people feedback, great guest, and you are a great guest.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will say, though, fellas, while it has been a real blessing to be as in demand as I've been in these past couple of days,
I can imagine.
Now that I'm done talking to you, I'm going to turn off this phone. I'm going to go start up the grill, and I'm going to try not to think about video games for the next 70 hours.
There you go.
Good luck, Matt.
Sausage, hot dogs,
Thanks,
hamburgers.
What do you
yeah. I mean, I'm a son of the Midwest, right? So there's going to be a lot of encased meats here on this grill. I think next time I'm in your neck of the woods, you guys might have to teach me how to do brisket. Because I think if I try, I'm going to look like Lincoln Riley.
No, I was kidding. I was about to say that. Yeah. There you go, Matt. Great job. Fantastic hustles. And also with us, and we've had him on a handful of times, and it's been great. Matt Brown, Extra Points. And I said this yesterday. I'll say it again.